All right, then. Let's talk about the October 4th patch. Within these notes, Spectre gets one of the biggest smackdowns in Guild Wars 2 history. Vindicator has an incredibly broken and amusing interaction for one day. And Berserker lets us down a little bit. And Virtuoso becomes one of the best DPS builds for PvE in the history of the game. Wow. What an exciting patch. Okay, and more, there's even more than that. Incredible. So, let's talk about it. Let's talk about what happened. So, I think we're going to get into Spectre first. Spectre is actually going to be the first thing that we talk about here in the patch note review because it's probably the most impactful one, actually. So let's get into it. What actually happened? The scaling on Shroud from your health has gone down from 1.5 to 0.69 in all game modes. Well, let's actually have a look at what that looks like. Let's log in to a Spectre right now. Let's take a look. Because this is quite the smackdown. So why did this happen? Well, this change happened because Spectre was incredibly problematic in PvP. You would actually run 3 Spectres in a single game. It was just a little bit too good at absolutely everything. However, a slight, a slight nerf later, and Spectre is basically dead. In fact, it is dead in PvP. Well, I mean, it's pretty dead in PvP because you are way squishier now than you used to be, and you don't really have a lot of the usual thief shenanigans for moving about the place, right? Or rather, for being stealthy and evasive. So you're basically a squish lord, and you're big dead at this point. So realistically, what needs to happen here is that Spectre needs a little bit of a readjustment and redesign to make it good but not oppressive. We'll see what ArenaNet can come up with there. The other thing that happened is that it accidentally kind of got caught in the crossfire for PvE. So you can see here that I want a pretty durable build. It's actually a Celestial Spectre, kind of like an open world build style thing. And I have a pathetic 14,000 Shadow Force. Ooh. Oh. This is bad. And bear in mind, if you go down to a DPS Spectre that has a very, very low health pool, I mean, you're going to be basically getting knocked out of Shroud by like a single attack or even just ticking damage sometimes. This has kind of wrecked Spectre in PvE, which is a little bit unfortunate. Now, the build was very strong because of the interaction between Shadow Force and Consume Shadows, which basically gained a massive heal when you leave Shroud and drained all of your Shroud. But now, this is probably a little bit too far. And by a little bit too far, I mean probably mean a lot too far. Now, I think the problem that's happened here is that Spectre Shroud maybe can't be split. Maybe they can. I mean, obviously it would be ideal if you could just split the Shroud scaling. So, for example, in PvE, it could be like 1.0 or 1.25, and then in PvP, it could have the much lower number of 0.69 that it is right now. The other option here, I think, is actually just massively increase Shadow Force generation. So, for example, in PvE, just double your Shroud generation. Maybe even more than double your generation on everything to compensate for the loss. So, it would actually change the playstyle of Spectre to be very in and out, like very up and down, compared to like Necromancer, which kind of builds up and then drains away. Because right now you're gonna lose your Shroud very, very quickly. I think they might also have to add some damage reduction to Spectre as well while you're in Shroud, similar to Necromancer, because right now you're a bit of a noodle. Now, that's not to say that Spectre is bad, by the way. Specifically, Alacrity Spectre, I actually still think is a very good build, a very respectable build, but it has been significantly weakened. You're going to have that passive heal for it's over halved, right? Pretty catastrophic, right? And you're just so much less durable. Oh, yeah. Very, very big nerf to Spectre, and I think this is something that ArenaNet definitely need to be a little bit careful of when they're balancing stuff like this, to making sure that things actually work in all game modes. Because, and honestly, even in PvP, you don't want to, like, outright delete a spec. That should never be the goal with balance. You shouldn't want it, like, utterly removed from the game, and that's kind of where Spectre is right now. It has been battered significantly, right? And although Thief is always going to be useful for rotating and being really fast all over the place, yeah, this is a little bit rough for poor old Spectre. The upside, though, is that for PvE, Spectre actually has stability access and more might too, and this change to Well of Bounty is surprisingly good. It kind of sucks to have protection lost here. It would almost be nice to have protection instead of that resistance, funnily enough, actually, although resistance is a cool boon, so it's all right, I guess. But now you actually apply a lot of might. You have 5 stacks of might from Thrill of the Crime here when you use your Siphon, which is permanent because of the low cooldown, and you also have 6 stacks of might from Well of Bounty now, so 11 total in PvE, alongside stability access when needed, and also some other utility boons like Vigor, Resistance, and of course Fury being thrown in there as well. So pretty interesting stuff. This change, by the way, this might not seem that important, but it actually is extremely important for PvP too. One of the really strong things about Spectre was actually its interaction with Elementalist. Specifically, that when an Elementalist goes down state, they vapor form up. If a Spectre then tethered onto them while they're in vapor form, because leaving vapor form actually counts as going down state, Shallow Grave would actually revive the Elementalist back up to not being down state anymore. This was very, very strong because Elementalist was actually heavily meta. Specifically, you would run Tempest and a Catalyst in a lot of games. This meant that your Spectre could revive your support, which is obviously very good, or revive your Duelist, the Catalyst, which is very, very strong. So you might go, oh, this is a bug fix, and it is a bug fix, but it's actually a very harsh nerf. That combined with these two things weakens Spectre even further in PvP. There you go. So, look, it's me again from the future. Jerna has edited me into the video. Isn't that incredible? So, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about Thief, because I said that Spectre kind of got bopped in PvP, and it did, but do not abandon hope, Thief friends. 1, Deadeye, actually still really insane, so if you're a Thief main, get out that sniper rifle and start dabbing on people. It's going to be a great time. Watch out for Soul Beast, though. That's going to be pain. And the other thing, I just wanted to actually talk about a few solutions to this, to the Shroud problem. Because you might be saying, okay, this needs to be reversed immediately. And I actually sympathize with that, because obviously it really sucks when your playstyle gets memed because of another game mode. However, if that isn't possible, we don't know if they can actually split the Shroud scaling, I think we need to look at some other options. And I kind of mentioned this earlier, but basically making it so you gain Shroud way faster, I think will be really good. You could even reduce the cooldown of Shroud a little bit, will be pretty cool. I think they could maybe increase the scaling on Consume Shadows so that you actually get more value. Or, this would be fun, I don't know if they can do this, they could make it so that this somehow scales with healing power. So that Consume Shadows doesn't just scale off vitality, it scales off having healing power. Or both, actually, to be honest, because this trait got absolutely butchered because of this sad, tragic nerf. Oh no, unlucky for all the Spectre mains. I think also, I was talking to Syndrina, there will be a pretty interesting change. Instead of having Shroud scale, make it not scale. Make it 20,000 base, always. And just make it not scale with vitality. That would also be, in my opinion, a very interesting change. Because that means that you wouldn't be... One of the issues with Spectre is that the vitality scaling being so high, 1.5, compared to Necromancer's like 0.69, basically, which is very similar. The problem with that was that it actually massively favored Condi builds. And I get it, right? It's kind of a Condi spec, but you know, it's a bit weird when it's that favored and that scaling. It's a very strong scaling. 1.5 is pretty wild in terms of that. So you have to be a little bit careful, in my opinion. So I think giving it a flat value could be somewhat of an interesting idea, but I do think that there needs to be some kind of compensation for this here in PvE for the Spectres, because we have been bullied. And I'm a Spectre fan, guys. I actually played Spectre in some raid speedruns. I'm a fan. So I want to see some Spectre love, because it is a really cool spec, in my opinion. It's really enjoyable to play, and very, very cool. So it'll be sad to see it kind of get completely obliterated by this change, which would be, would be highly undesirable, in my opinion. I think the other solution would be to actually give it damage reduction. Necromancer, not a lot of people know this. Even Necromanes don't know this. Necromancer, while it's in Shroud, actually has a hidden, it's not shown anywhere, so I can't blame people, hidden 33% damage reduction in PvE and 50% damage reduction in PvP and World vs. World. Now, I think you could give this to Spectre as well. In fact, the reason why Spectre didn't have this was, of course, because it scaled really hard with Vitality, right? With 1.5 instead of a much lower scaling with Necromancer. I think you could give this to Spectre. Specifically, you could make it 33% or even 50% if you wanted to in PvP, in PvE, to make it so that you're a lot more durable, a lot tankier in Shroud. But in PvP, here's the thing. You could make it 0%, or 10%, or 20%, right? So if Spectres ends up being way too tanky and way too durable, you could just play with that damage reduction. And we know they can split that because they split it with Necromancer. While you're at it, put it back to 50% in PvE. What the hell? Right? Like, Necro's got, like, randomly nerfed. It was, like, the weirdest nerf ever. They were like, you know what? You know those Reapers? Those Reapers just infesting the metagame? Nerf. Oh, no! Well, I mean, you hate to see that. You do hate to see that. It's unfortunate stuff. But anyway, that's what I'd probably have a look at with Spectre, because I do think that it does need a few extra tweaks. And yeah, I'd probably add Prot on Well of Bounty as well. That's the news. There you go. That's the end of Me from the Future. I think it is. Wait, was there anything else? Was there anything else, chat? Me from the Future, out! Kind of staying on PvP. A lot of the warrior changes were, again, very competitive focused, specifically looking to target Berserker, while also keeping Bladesworn in check a little bit. Now, Berserker, I was very excited about this. I was like, whoa, look at all these changes, guys. Wow, it's absolutely insane. This is so crazy. They've completely reworked Berserker. It's so good in PvP now. And, well, funnily enough, it is a lot better in PvP. You no longer have the trade-off of losing toughness while you're in Berserk, and you even get your normal warrior core burst back. This is great, and the defense trait line gives Berserker a lot more sustainability, and also some really cool interactions, giving it invulnerability, or rather endure pain, when using an elite skill with, what trait is it? Where is it? Where is the trait? It's the stance trait. It's called Defy Pain. There it is. Yeah, this one. Really cool interaction. You headbutt, and then boom. Enduring pain. And you also get a free Blood Reckoning when you enter Berserk, but it turns out that this isn't quite enough. The main issue that Berserker is currently still facing is that although it has really, really good damage output, what it lacks is the ability to mitigate damage. A lot of the duelist builds that you see either have very, very high sustain or a lot of mitigation, like Catalyst can mitigate really well with Shocking Aura, Magnetic Aura, and so on, like that, whereas Berserker doesn't quite have this. And as a result of that, Berserker, not quite as broken as people were perhaps expecting, but still a much better build now in PvP, and definitely one that is absolutely in the viable territory, or certainly, you know, more viable than it was before. A perfectly competent build, conditioned Berserker, basically. With the Mace, Skull Grinder is back. Staying on Warrior for a little bit, actually, Spellbreaker. Spellbreaker, because of the nerfs to Bladesworn, which we're going to get into in just a moment, actually, this particularly here, this tactical reload nerf, significantly nerfing Bladesworn in PvP, Spellbreaker, actually pretty solid as well, and has a good chunk of buffs. More damage on a lot of key dagger abilities, including the burst skill, Breaching Strike, and a longer daze duration on full counter, and even more stats thanks to Attacker's Insight. Whenever you remove a boon, this means you get this buff that gives you more power, more precision, and more ferocity. So a lot of really good buffs here. More might from Magebane Tether as well. It's just a good time. We're loving it. Okay, turns out that because this spec is actually quite good into Catalyst, right, it's a very good duelist, that this makes Spellbreaker better. However, is it really as good as Catalyst? Unfortunately, that doesn't appear to be the case, but this is certainly the right direction. We're moving towards this state where Spellbreaker could definitely be back on the menu, so very exciting stuff. And then to kind of round out Warrior, oh yeah, we better talk about Bladesworn. Now, Bladesworn was a bit of a menace in PvP, to be honest. It was a bit of a menace. The ability to recharge your shouts using the Bladesworn Elite skill Tactical Reload was very problematic and made it like a do-everything build. Support, damage, 1v1, tanky, surprisingly mobile too, actually. And, well, we'll talk about this bug here, because this bug was actually one of the things that made this slightly problematic, as it turns out. But it was just a bit of a monstrous build, as it turns out. So the really big one here is that Tactical Reload now only recharges Bladesworn skills instead of all Warrior ammunition skills. So previously, it would reload everything. So it would reload our core skills here. It would reload Shouts, for example, which have these 2 charges here. It would reload that. absolutely everything. Now it's only going to be Blade Sworn skills instead. Now this is obviously a colossal nerf, especially seeing as it had very powerful interactions with being able to use more shouts and use the tactics trait line to then heal yourself with vigorous shouts over and over again. This has definitely bopped Blade Sworn very, very hard. It was kind of almost the counterpart to Catalyst in a way in the duelist semi-support, like smaller fight, like small scale fight, like 2v2 and 3v3 role. That is no longer the case, thanks to a bit of a hammering here, unfortunately, for poor old Blade Sworn. However, I still think it's not, like, completely awful, obviously. Like, you can absolutely play this build, and it will still be effective, although not this build. This is, like, some incredibly random build where I was just clicking on the traits to see what they did. Don't play this. It's not going to go well for you. But Blade Sworn, its reign of terror has ended in the PvP meta. But just to see how this actually works, you can see here that we can just use some of these skills, all these Blade Sworn abilities. We use some other, like, random skills as well to demonstrate this. And then we go into our Gun Saber and just, like, spam all of this. Okay, you can see here that we can use our elite skill. Then, boom, we get ammunition back on all of our Blade Sworn skills. That's including the utility skills here and also here. There's actually a slight bug on this, but look, we don't talk about that. That's going to get fixed very, very shortly. Have no fear. As you can see, it no longer reloads the other abilities. Honestly, a good change overall for PvP because this build was a bit uninteractive. In general, builds that kind of spam instant cast shouts, not great, right? Not great. Not great at all. And Dragon Trigger. So I'll actually explain what happened here. So the thing that happened with Dragon Trigger is that you could actually basically cancel it in a way and stow the animation and get a 4-second cooldown instead of an 8-second cooldown. This actually made Blade Sworn in PvP surprisingly mobile, as you could kind of leap around like a complete lunatic using the dash right on Dragon Trigger, making it really, really fast. A lot faster than it should have been, actually. That has now been fixed, and that's also, again, a pretty hefty nerf to Blade Sworn as well. So that's something worth noting. That's kind of a similar thing to what happened with Spectre, where a bug was making Blade Sworn almost like stronger than it should have been. And that bug being fixed is also getting nerfed big time here as well. Yeah, this trait, okay, right, look, I'll be a little bit brief here. This trait is a bit weird right now. They're supposed to be removing the stability from Dragon Scale Defense. As I understand it, it is bugged right now, and it may still be giving stability, but we don't talk about that, okay? Look, it's a nerf, right? It hasn't happened yet, all right? But yeah, also gets nerfed in that regard. Another really important thing, just as a final note on Warrior, actually, is going to be Shake It Off. And don't mind me, my tooltip engine has slightly mistaken Shake It Off for the pet skill here. But, you know, Shake It Off, I'll just show you in the game. Shake It Off is this ability. And actually, it's a bit of a monster right now, actually. And great for Spellbreaker, of course. Shake It Off, now in addition to being a stun break for the Warrior, also stun breaks allies as well. Okay? That is huge. Really awesome piece of utility with a relatively low cooldown of 30 seconds in competitive modes. Great for Spellbreaker or any kind of warrior build in World versus World, and also great in PvP too, for kind of supporting your allies and actually being able to break them out of stuns in addition to cleansing their conditions. So another really nice thing for Spellbreaker in that regard too. But that's kind of all the changes for Warrior. In fact, I guess the other thing that's also worth noting here, I'm actually going to note this too, even though this was mostly a competitive patch. I just want to let all of the Spellbreaker fans in PvE know about some developments there as well. Hammer Spellbreaker. Oh, yeah. That's right, gamers. Hammer Spellbreaker is absolutely on the menu in PvE right now, getting around 37,000 DPS, while of course also having an excellent defensive baked into it with full counter, and of course the boon removal utility. Additionally, the quickness power Spellbreaker build, also excellent, getting above 30,000 DPS currently, while of course applying quickness. A few more changes to banner functionality, and that's going to be a damn good build, actually. I'm really hopeful for support warrior in the future, particularly with these changes to Shake It Off, and the actual versatility of what the banners can bring to the table with, of course, Barrier, with Aegis, with Stability. A few more changes along that road, actually, and I think all of a sudden, that build is very, very attractive indeed. Some kind of healing support warrior that gives quickness, And of course, the offensive support with Quickness Spellbreaker, Quickness Condi Berserker as well is also looking super good right now. All this kind of stuff. Very, very exciting, actually. Very, very exciting. Oh, yeah. The 37k is great, but the hammer build is also good as well, actually. It's also good. Yeah, Dagger Axe, great sword for the 37k, but Hammer Spellbreaker also surprisingly good as well. And of course, there's a lot of CC that it brings to the table. But there you go. Enjoy! Spellbreaker is unchained, is unleashed upon the world. Next up, let's talk about the other incredibly amusing and broken thing. And I think the best way to actually demonstrate what happened to Vindicator and why you have to be so careful with dodge roll abilities, I think the only way is to actually shamelessly steal someone else's YouTube content. And that is, of course, this video from Stark. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at what happened to Vindicator. So, long and the short of it is that Vindicator, a seemingly simple change, it got its second dodge back, and the dodge cost was reduced to 50. Now, you might think, well, that doesn't seem too broken. Well, of course, here's the thing. Vigor restores your endurance. Landing on loads of people restores endurance thanks to Reaver's Curse or whatever it is. Okay, you gain endurance when you cleanse Condis with Tree Song. Also with, what is it, Scavenger's meme, right, on the other Alliance Stance skill as well. You also get endurance when you remove a condition from the Salvation trait line. Yeah, it turned out that this allowed Vindicators to dodge almost infinitely and essentially become invulnerable, particularly when dodging around nearby allies. A lot of endurance regeneration here, and temporarily, for a very similar reason, this also caused a few slightly amusing things to happen in PvP. Let me go ahead and bring up the image right now, and we can enjoy this as well. So, obviously, almost infinite dodging in World vs. World, but you think PvP got away with this? Absolutely no. Here is a 5 Vindicator PvP team in an automated tournament, I believe. Quite amusing to see that. So yeah, for a brief moment in time, Vindicator became pretty broken because of this interaction. And just to kind of go over that interaction, we can kind of talk about this right now. What was actually going on? And there was actually a specific hotfix talking about this. The things that were causing a lot of issues were Reaver's Curse. This means that whenever you, affect targets with a dodge, so, healing allies or damaging enemies, you got endurance back. Tree Song, for every Condi you remove, you gain some endurance back. Invigorating Dismissal, this is, I believe, the Salvation trait that, I'm just going to quickly check that, actually. It's the Salvation trait, I believe, that gives you endurance back when you cleanse a condition. There we go, Invigorating Dismissal is right there. And also, of course, Vigor Effectiveness from Song of Arboreum. Over here too, basically just better Vigor for being a Vindicator, getting back at free endurance with Energy Meld, then Scavenger Burst and Reaver's Curse. Also causing some problems. This actually did happen in PvE as well, and it kind of is still there a little bit in PvE. The problem is that the support Vindicator in PvE really lacks a special thing that it can do. It has the boon extension, and that's really strong. And to be honest, I could actually see a really interesting composition happening where you would run like a quickness DPS Firebrand, a power Alak mech, and then a boon extender Vindicator. And then run basically 0 boon duration on the mech or the Firebrand and have the Vindicator heal. And honestly, that probably actually does work pretty damn well. The problem is that, of course, now you've gone from needing 2 support builds to 3, which is going to be a lot more complicated to build your group around, so it probably won't end up seeing that much play, despite the fact that it honestly is pretty powerful, particularly seeing as you could actually extend really powerful boons like resistance and stability massively using the boon extension. Having said that, it has been nerfed a lot. Reaver's Curse from 5 to 2 in PvP and PvE as well essentially deletes this. And I'm not gonna lie, it also suffered a similar fate. It had a glorious day of being broken in PvP. Unfortunately, it's back to Herald with a lot of you. Condi Herald, that build actually also got a little bit better because they made Torment better in PvP, so it does more damage to moving targets now. Well, rather, they squidged it together. It still does more damage to stationary targets, but they squidged the numbers together, the difference there, to make it kind of better on average in PvP to try and bring back Condi Herald, alongside a whole bunch of extra increased duration on resistance. We can see here. You can see here, we have more lower energy costs on all these abilities, and more resistance from Demonic Defiance, Fiendish Tenacity, and indeed Spirit Boon from Invocation as well. I mean, it's kind of all right. You know, Condi Hero's always been a build that's been pretty okay. I think it really fell off when the resistance nerfs came through. Bringing that back will certainly help out a lot, but I'm not sure if it really fits into the metagame currently. We haven't really seen it start to rear its head yet again. But yeah, double Echoing Eruption is fun. Double Blast Finisher. Actually really cool to be able to do that. A lot of fun indeed with this stuff there with Rev. But yeah, this build, no longer broken. I actually would like to see ArenaNet lean into kind of a boon extension build. I think it would be better if it was actually a damage build. So in other words, you were basically a DPS Vindicator, but you also extend boons on your allies. That would definitely be, I think, a lot easier to fit into group comps and like a really nice piece of utility that it could bring to the table. So that would probably be the way I'd go about doing it there, because I don't really see this kind of new role, boon extender, actually seeing a lot of play in PvE. It's simply too niche. You could see it in funny enough, in high level play actually, you know, because obviously running full DPS builds is really good. And basically not needing to run a healer is a really nice thing, or like a dedicated support is really good in PvE. But for kind of like normal play, or like non-specialized play, that's pretty unlikely. And to be honest, this entire thing, I'm going to go on, now I'm on my soapbox, right? This tells you why mechanics that interact with the dodge are very dangerous. A seemingly simple change of just giving it back its second dodge needed a 75% nerf in World vs. World. A 50% nerf in World vs. World. And then Song of Arboreum, a 50% nerf here again, and a triple nerf. They have divided the vigor by over 3 in PvP. This is one of the most brutal nerfs that was needed. And the scary thing is that this was necessary as well. Changing this, that simple change with the dodge, broke the game in its entirety. And that's honestly worth thinking about. From ArenaNet's perspective, when they're thinking about design, when it comes to dodge mechanics, right? Stuff like Mirage. They gotta be careful when they bring that dodge back, okay? They gotta be careful. Because dodge, of course, is such a powerful mechanic in Guild Wars 2, right? It's so strong. It has so much value in every game mode, of course. So you got to watch out. If your dodge does a special attack on top of that and gives you endurance back, then things are getting wild, right? Things are getting a little crazy. But I still think that builds like this have potential. You know, I think that support Vindicator, really cool idea, particularly Alliance Stance. I actually really like the Alliance Stance abilities, the way they work. Very, very cool. I think that we'll see some more changes to support Revenant down the line in November. Very, very cool stuff. Very, very cool stuff indeed. But actually, I need to quickly do something for YouTube, guys, because I need to talk about Vindicator a little bit. In my patch review video, I said that Vindicator in PvP got demolished. But, fun fact and good news for all Vindicator mains, it turns out that 2 dodges is indeed at least 1 too many, because Vindicator still totally broken, terrorizing ranked as we speak. We love to see it. CMC scrabbling. Once again, the double dodge has conquered the balance team here. It's currently annihilating things. Some very funny videos out there with infinite boons and also running around just demolishing everything. Sometimes you see 4 Vindicators. Sometimes you see 5 Vindicators on a single team. But yeah, that's it. A little bit of an update here from me in the future on my Zero Hero account. Yeah, that's how important it was. Breaking news, my friends, okay? 2 dodges. It may well be too many. Probably not. They're just going to nerf it even harder. Looks like Vindicator's going to need a 500% nerf. It wasn't enough to nerf it by 75. We're going to have to nuke it from orbit. Ooh. It's so funny. It's so funny. I can't wait to see the chaos that's going to get unleashed when they bring the Mirage dodge back. Seriously. They've got to be so careful. It's gonna be a bloodbath. So kind of going on to Ranger here, actually, there is just amazing news for Ranger mains. And actually, I'm really surprised that I haven't seen this start to kick off. I do still think that support Mechanist is still causing a few problems, I think, for all the Druid mains out there. As, of course, I think the barrier application, although it has been reduced with Mechanist, I do still think that that really gives the advantage over to the Mechs instead of the Ranger. But Druid has actually got some really cool buffs this patch, actually. For a start, all glyph cooldowns you got the duration reduced for free, because Verdant Etching, the glyph trait, this trait now gives you protection when you use a glyph instead of reducing the cooldown and summoning a Seed of Life. This means you're actually very free to always take, say, Celestial Shadow or, of course, Natural Stride if you want some more mobility on yourself at all times. And these traits are great. Stealth and Super Speed on a very short cooldown in PvE, great for helping your team kind of move around, or, of course, give them some stealth or stealth NPCs if that's the kind of thing you're into. Really, really nice, great utility buff, and of course, this means that abilities like Glyph of Rejuvenation actually surprisingly insane on Druid now. Like, this ability is going to heal big time. Check what happens when we go in Celestial Avatar. That is now a 7,000 area of effect heal while we're in Celestial Avatar. That is quite monstrous, I'm not gonna lie, right? And of course, we now have instant cast, right, Seed of Life. This is actually crazy. I need to get back in Celestial Avatar to demonstrate that. Fortunately, oh wait, another buff. Now we just get Lingering Light passive. In other words, just infinite Astral Force generation. We get that completely for free as well. Baked in to Natural Mender, as it turns out. We get 5 energy every 3 seconds. That's now totally free. When we're dealing with that. So we just have all of our Celestial Avatar problems are significantly reduced on Druid during this. Actually insane. It's honestly so crazy. Druid is so strong right now. Again, the only thing that's holding back the tidal wave of Ranger is pretty much Mechanist. But don't let that stop you, actually. Like, outside of, like, the most extreme scenarios, honestly, Druid is going to perform so damn well. You have much better ranged healing than a Mechanist, because you know, all of your abilities on Celestial Avatar. Check this out, guys. Look, we're all ranged. Right? It's all ranged. Look at that. It's crazy. Actually crazy, guys. You love to see it. And of course, you know, now we have this instant cast Seed, which means actually we can blast our light field super easily, like that, to cleanse Condis. But also it means we can spam so much ranged healing whenever we're in Celestial Avatar, because you can just double up. Previously, you'd have to basically kind of alternate between using the first skill and the second skill, or, you know, not be able to use it during Lunar Impact and so on. But now you just get like a free Seed of Life every 1 second while you're in Celestial Avatar. It also detonates way faster, so you heal quicker and more efficiently and cleanse Condis to a ridiculous level. The amount of... This build actually might be the best healer in the game right now, actually. Simply because of that. Of course, you are, of course, limited by Celestial Avatar, but it has such a short cooldown that you're very rarely going to have downtime. You need to be a little bit careful with your ability usage here, but in terms of healing output, it's probably the best healer in the game right now. It does still lack a few things. I do think that the boon application it's actually surprisingly mediocre on this build. You just have, like, you don't overcap people on prot, you only exactly cap people, and if you want to apply Alacrity, you have to actually use the Spirit ability. This means that you end up interrupting yourself a lot, right? If I have to do this every 20 seconds basically to keep applying Alacrity. Not that much fun with the way that this mechanic actually works. The stability is somewhat mediocre as well. Glyph of the Stars is nice. We can just, the big change here is that now we can just plop this ability down and it's going to pulse out stability to everyone. So we look at these players here, boom! Cast it, and then it just exists. It just exists. Oh. They waypointed. Okay, well, thank you. But now it just pulses out a stack of stability every few seconds, and you can also revive people a lot while you're in Celestial Avatar with a very short cooldown too. You can see it's just a 60-second cooldown, and it still gives stability while you're in Celestial Avatar, which makes it great for your team reviving. You can kind of plop it down, and then everyone's getting pulsing stability, so you can start reviving people very effectively there, which is kind of fun. The other thing is this, Astral Wisp. We can now cast Astral Wisp on an allied target, just like our Staff 1 here. So we can heal people with our Staff 1 here, and we can also pop down our Astral Wisp on an allied target, including our own spirits, and then it will pulse out healing. This is actually a subtly big change, because in general, being able to support your allies while you aren't there, or while they're on their own without a target, is actually really strong. It's actually one of the weaknesses of Mechanist, actually, is that Mechanist kind of can't move the mech to an arbitrary location, right? Like, you know, it's the same on Ranger, right? I can't make my pet go over here. There's no ability I can do that says, hey, pet, go there. And that, because of course, that's really important with the mech, because the mech is applying all of the boons. But with Druid, I can say, okay, boom! I can now heal this player, and I can now auto-attack this player with my Solar Beam to actually sustain them. And, of course, if I really need to, we can go ahead and use all of our ranged abilities. This is a great piece of utility. And don't get me wrong, of course, this is like a bit of a skill test, right? You're going to have to use your abilities wisely in order to be able to pull that off, but it means that Druid has really, really high potential. Really, really good potential to do this. And it's also a little bit feature complete too, because Glyph of Equality, when we go into Celestial Avatar, that also grants us stability. And the radius is now up to 600 on this skill. Take a look at that. 600 radius there. And I believe that also applies to the stability as well. So if we're over here, we can apply that stability stack. Well, it didn't hit that play. It hit these players over instead. But look, they got it, right? Didn't hit that guy. It hit these guys. But very cool ability indeed, actually. So Druid is really, really strong right now. I think that we might even start to see a little bit more play. When players get used to it. I think that it needs to be talked a bit more in the community. I think players need to get used to it, kind of understand what the build does and how it operates. Very, very strong indeed. And of course, Spirit of Nature is still a great choice there for elite skill. Might even be like the preferable elite skill, to be honest. Glyph of the Stars is kind of nice, and some stability access is pretty cool, especially on a short cooldown. But the revive potential of Spirit of Nature and the passive healing is also really, really excellent. But yeah, Druid, absolute fire right now. And honestly, even in PvP, this is a little bit exciting. I think it's not quite there yet. And I think Tempest, a bit of a monster alongside Core Guardian. And I think one thing to really note here is that I do feel like ArenaNet have been a bit stingy with stability on non-Guardian classes. A little bit confusing there. Don't know why they're doing that. In PvE, everything's giving 1 stack of stab, which honestly isn't good enough. We saw that Well of Bounty on Spectre being 1 stack. We saw the Glyph of Equality. It's 1 stack here, as you can see on this one here. It's just a bit not good enough, right? Compared to Stand Your Ground, 600 radius, 5 stack of stability. That's maybe a little too good, right? A little bit too good in that regard. But yeah, honestly, if you're a Druid main, you should be hyped. You should be on your Druid. You should be going crazy, because seriously, the healing numbers, the green numbers on this is actually ridiculous. Get on your Druid and start carrying your team now. What are you waiting for? Okay. Another really cool change was actually to Soul Beast, actually, and it was specifically Eternal Bond. So what does Eternal Bond actually do? Let's go ahead and swap to a Soul Beast now so you can see it in action. So taking Eternal Bond means that we can actually meld with your other pet. And actually, I haven't, weirdly enough, wait, do I have another? Wait, oh no, wait. Do I have another pet? What the hell? What is going on here? I've only got 1 pet, guys. What the fuck? Wait, what the hell's happening here? Oh, there you go. Nice. Okay. Let's go. I want my Gazelle. Boom. And what this allows me to do is that we can merge, and we get this brand new ability, F4, Eternal Bond. And you can see here that on my Lightning Wyvern, we have Tail Lash, Wing Buffet, and Prelude Lash. If we hit the F4, boom! We're now merged with the Gazelle. And we have Kick. We have Charge. And we have Worldly Impact. This actually is one of those things that sounds like, oh, is that a big deal? Is that a big deal? Doesn't sound that good. But this is what it does. It gives Soul Beast in PvP. This is a PvP order to change. It gives PvP, okay, the ability to be flexible. You can have an offensive pet, one that might have worldly impact, and so on, and all this kind of stuff. And let me just drop out here to kind of demonstrate this. We could have that. But here's the interesting thing. You can... Oh, do I actually... I'm not sure I have the... Oh, no. I might not have the right pets on this guy. I might need to swap over. Which is a bit unfortunate, actually. Because... Oh, no. Do I have a defensive pet on this guy? Let's see. Hang on. Ah! Yes, we do. Very good. The blue mower is our salvation. What it means is that we can have a really offensive pet or a defensive pet. And without leaving beast mode... we can then swap over to our offensive pet or defensive pet. So we can use our invuln here, our take no damage from incoming attacks. Boom. And then go, oh, we're playing really defensively. Oh, I'm running around in circles. Oh, no, I'm kiting away in PvP. And then we can go, you know what? Boom. Time to break out the big impact. This is the kind of thing that really held Soul Beast back. Soul Beast was a bit of a one-trick pony. Like, pew, 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 pew. Just like one-shot people. And then if people focus you, you kind of die. But this type of thing just gives it that flexibility, the ability to have skills that allow it to adapt to the situation a bit better. And unfortunately, Soul Beast, actually, even with this change, it's not like mega busted. It's definitely better for ranked and competitive play. The same kind of Sikkim, aggressive Soul Beast build for doing some big damage. The Duelist build would also love this, by the way. Kind of like the Condi Duelist Soul Beast build. Could be really, really fun to use that and make that build even stronger. It's already an amazing 1v1er, but this will make it even better, of course, with more flexibility and more access to more useful skills. But this is the type of change that says to me, watch out for Soul Beast. A few more patches down the line, and this build is going to be a monster. It's still great now. Amazing for ranked, by the way. You know, the only reason you probably don't see it more is because Untamed is even better, actually, for ranked gameplay, and also for competitive. It's definitely overshadowed a bit by Untamed. They have a similar role, this kind of Roma DPS style. But seriously, stay tuned for Soul Beast. Rangers, oof, oh my god. We're having a good time. And actually, let's go even further. Another awesome change for all the Soul Beast fans is actually the radius increase of leader of the pack up to 600. Let's talk about it. Why is that? And what was the intended change? It was kind of a world versus world change to make Dolyak stance and stance sharing and world versus world a fair bit better. But oh yeah, this is damn good in PvE. Now, of course, you're going to have to eat a bit of a DPS loss for taking Dolyak stance, but what a skill! This skill is like stand your ground, but even better. 6 stacks of stability that we share, and we also share damage reduction to our team, and they're completely immune to any slows. Can't be immobilized, can't be chilled, can't be crippled. This skill is unironically one of the best skills in the entire game. That radius was holding it back, and yes, the duration is lower on allies, but here's the thing, not the boon duration, it's just the actual stance duration itself. I think we could even see that tweaked up a little bit in PvE, actually. Make it like maybe 75%, you know, so it's not as long as you, but it's like it's still really good, because it is a pretty harsh, 50%, Oh, right? I can definitely see that happening to make it a little bit better, but what a godlike piece of utility. If you're a power Soul Beast or a Condi Soul Beast, you can carry your team with this. It is so damn good. It really, really is. Fantastic stuff, right? Get in there right now and go big. And by the way, guys, no, the pets 1 to 3 do not share a cooldown here with Eternal Bond. Take a look at this. If I use all of these abilities here like this, and I go ahead and swap over, after that, you'll notice that I actually get them. I get them again. Right? Okay? This is actually you can use through all of them. Yeah, just to quickly correct that. That is not the case, guys. You can use them all. But yeah, super exciting for any Ranger fans. Great changes over there to that Soul Beast and Druid. Oh my god, it just doesn't stop. You know, before we do Mesmer, Mechanist got nerfed. Aim-assisted rocket, guys, no longer activates on the mech. Oh, no! And the mech has less ferocity. I do want to quickly give a shout-out here to the God Emperor of PvE, Mechanist. It actually resisted the nerf. On the actual patch day, the nerf inverted. It got even more ferocity, in fact. It got buffed. It was so powerful, it got buffed. Mech can't be stopped. It is the God Emperor. Just as a bit of an aside, Mechanist, still one of the top choices for DPS in PvE. So don't worry about it, gang. If you're a mech fan, you're in luck. Also, better news. This is cool. We'll talk about this a little bit later, actually. There's a core engineer DPS build that actually, I believe, does a little bit more damage than Mechanist now. Not as much DPS uptime, of course, because it doesn't have the mech, but core Engie, actually pretty hot right now, if you're into that sort of thing there as well. But why did I bring up mech? Well, because what if I main mech and I actually think that I can't live without my build being utterly broken? What if that's me? Well, to be honest, mech is still pretty busto. But let's imagine that, you know what? The nerfs hit me hard. I'm psychologically broken by the nerfs. What do I play? What do I play? I'll tell you what you play. You play Virtuoso. Virtuoso is probably now the best all-round DPS build in the game. Oh yeah. That's right, gamers. That is correct. It is big, my friends. It is big. Condi and Power, by the way. Condi and Power. Both of them are great in this instance. So what's happened? Number one, we have distortion now on this build. And this is kind of the key here. This build has 2 incredible defensives for free. And look at that. 1 second of distortion per blade. Yeah, you heard that right. 5 seconds of pure invuln baked into the class. And on top of that, of course, we still have our Blade Turn Requiem, which is a 25-second cooldown, 2-second block. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Enjoy that. So this class has 2 amazing defensives baked in. But the fun doesn't end there. Do you know what's fun about Virtuoso, guys? I'll tell you. Your utility skill slots are actually quite free. So this is kind of what the normal bar might look like for a Power Virtuoso. We have our Phantasmal Disenchanter, Rain of Swords, and Mantra of Pain. And then you would take Domination, like this. And you have these traits, because we want to do damage, I believe. There we go. This is how we do our big DPS. Very nice. But hang on. These 2 skills are actually not that great. Mantra of Pain especially. It's like a little bit of extra free damage thrown in there. Nice. Who doesn't like that? But what this means is that not only does Mesmer have amazing range damage at 1200, very high DPS overall, incredible survivability thanks to Blade Song Distortion and Blade Turn Requiem, it also has incredible flexibility in the fact that now we can do everything. We already remove boons for free because we have Phantasmal Berserker and also Phantasmal Disenchanter. That's baked into our rotation. But wait, hang on. Mantra of Concentration got buffed and now gives 3 stacks of stability on a 600 radius. So that's all the way over there. You can see that player there got our stability. This is now one of the best skills in the entire game. With, of course, Alacrity. That's a 24-second cooldown. And it has 2 charges. And 2 charges is special. This is very special. Listen up. 2 charges is good because, and this is going to sound really weird and obvious, you don't have to use it all in one go. Right? It means that you can divide your skill in 2 and use it when you need to. Let's imagine there are like 2 CCs coming in the next 30 seconds. The good thing about having a charge is that you can block the first CC, wait 10 seconds, and then block the second one. If you had all of the stability in one go, let's say it was 6 stacks with only 1 charge, then you'd be able to block the first CC, but not the second CC. And this is why having charges and ammo is really nice. This skill is fantastic right now. And you can even replace Rain of Swords. Again, that's a DPS loss, but you can take more utility. For example, you could take Blink and Portal. This is a great combo if you want to move your team around. You could take something like Mantra of Concentration, and then you can also take, hey, Condi Cleanse if you need to, right? Or Feedback, maybe, if that's the kind of thing that you might require right now. Or more CC with Signet of Domination, for example. Or anything. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff you can take. There's loads of really good stuff. You can take more Invuln. Hell, we can do Blade Renewal. We want to be even tankier, even more dead, right? Even more less dead? Then great. Blade Renewal. Because that means that we can go ahead and just get another 3 seconds of Invul and get all of our blades back immediately from doing that. And this level of flexibility is really what makes Mesmer fantastic in PvE. This is one of the best DPS elite specializations in the game right now, if not the best. If you're looking for a new DPS build, Virtuoso is absolutely the way to go. And that is the conditioned version. I kind of have the power version set up here. But the conditioned version is amazing too. That's even better. You know, in a lot of ways, it's awesome because you actually have focus kind of baked into that build as well, as I understand it, which is just great, right? Or you can very easily take focus on either of the. You can take it on the power build too. Actually, you can take focus easily on either build, which is another like one of Temporal Curtain, one of the best skills in the game. There you go. Oh yes, one of the best skills in the game, and it is true. It's a good point. By the chat, actually, is that, yeah, Condi Virtuoso is actually arguably better because you actually lose less from taking utility, right? Like, Condi is actually even more flexible than Power. Power is good because it has power damage, and power damage typically is better than condition damage because you can do your damage up front. But the Condi build is even tankier because you get lifesteal from Jagged Mind, you have infinite blades because of Blood Song, and you apply loads of bleeds from, you know, doing loads of, you know, from having this trait here as well, Jagged Mind synergizing really well with that. And, even better, you don't have to really give up as much when you're dealing, when you're taking more utility. Oh my god. If you want these builds, guys, then you know where you gotta go? That's right. Head on over to Hardstuck. This is gonna be really embarrassing if we haven't got them. Fortunately, we do have them. Hooray! But yeah, this is the Condition Virtuoso build that you... Wait, what? Is that... Wait, really? Interesting. Here you go. Enjoy. Hardstuck.gg, my friends. Embrace the builds. Embrace the memes. Get over here. Oh, dude. Signet of Illusions is even more unhinged, actually. Holy shit. Because on this Condi build, you take this Signet for free. That gets you your Distortion back. Oh... Oh, it's even worse. Oh my god, what a disgusting build. We haven't even talked about elite skills. But anyway, pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good build. Chronomancer, gonna keep it short and sweet. It's nice that you have Distortion now. Chrono still has some usability issues, though, in my opinion. It still has some usability problems. Specifically, I think it needs a bit more boon access. I think if it gave protection, that would be good, and maybe give it a touch more damage. Because the problem with Chronomancer right now is that if you go for the all-out, balls-to-the-walls, full damage build, then you can do quickness and decent DPS and solid utility, but it is a razor edge to upkeep quickness. I think that they need to make it so it's a bit easier to upkeep quickness, probably by increasing the base duration on Seize the Moment, or just changing it in some way so it's a bit easier. Maybe making the shield trait a bit better, like more quickness on your shield at a baseline instead, perhaps, when you take that trait. Might be better, actually. That, you know, might be a way to go. And also just probably making this will be a big change. Big change. If Chronomancer Shield for Phantasm did loads of damage, so it's a DPS increase to use it, and also had a radius of 360 on the protection, or maybe even 480, because the Phantasm is a bit weird because it kind of spawns in a weird location, so it might not always be near your team. And they increase the duration on that proc, then I think Chronomancer, quickness DPS Chronomancer, would end up being really good. Sword Shield then Greatsword, or Sword Shield then Sword Focus will be very, very nice, actually. Just needs a bit more damage, a bit more usability, and especially with Distortion, that is going to be very, very tasty indeed. And also, bonus meme, bring us back Chaos Chrono. You love to see it. Chaos Chrono is back. Firebrand. Oh no! Firebrand is still best in slot in World vs. World. Yeah, there it is. That's all that. And now Mech and Engineer. I'll talk about Hollow first. Hollow actually has a really cool build in PvP. Specifically, that build is a rifle tools build that uses it uses the photon wall again. Up here, where is it? Where is the photon wall change? Did I miss? Ah, here it is. Yep. Reduce the cooldown from 45 seconds to 35 in PvP. It's kind of like the old school build. It's rifle, and you do static discharge, and you spam a whole bunch of little electric charges and cleanse condies on yourself. It's good. It's absolutely not like Busto, but it does exist now, and it's really starting to bring Hollow back into the game, kind of bringing it back to where it wants to be in that regard too. As we mentioned previously, Mech kind of got nudged down a little bit. Don't worry, it's still really good. But yeah, Hollow in PvP actually on its way back, which is really fun to see, actually, with the new tools rework. Scrapper didn't end up getting bopped. You know, basically a few changes here. Sneak Gyro gives less stealth in World vs. World. Purge Gyro cooldown is up. Blah, 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 blah. Funnily enough, there are actually some pretty strong buffs here about this. If you're a Scrapper fan, in PvE, by the way, this trait is now a lot better. Super Speed is now applied on the first pulse of Worlds instead of the final pulse. This makes it a little... You have to kind of spread out your gyros a bit more, otherwise you're going to overcap on Super Speed, which is mildly inconvenient, but the usability is fantastic. It means, boom, give someone Super Speed. Ooh, instantly, right? Very nice, actually, with this. Very good usability there. And, funnily enough, if you're a heal Scrapper fan, the defense field change is actually a buff. Now you can give stability at ranged. Awesome. So, heal Scrapper a little bit better. DPS Scrapper more usable, funnily enough. And basically, it's still really, really strong in the World vs. World context, but it's been tried to be brought down a little bit. And especially with Druid getting a lot better, with Catalyst actually performing really well right now, alongside Tempest, and, you know, all these other options being brought into play. Honestly, I love to see that. That is fantastic stuff, right? There. But, you know, I think there will be some more changes to Scrapper down the line, as I believe it is still going to be fairly dominant in World vs. World. Needs a bit more there. The design change would have helped a lot more there, but obviously the design change was really upsetting in PvE. Feels bad. But there it is. And now let's talk about Ellie. Ellie, weirdly enough, doesn't really get a whole lot of changes with Elementalist. Basically, the thing that I actually want to talk about here is not really about balance, because honestly, Catalyst is great in PvP still. It's still really, really strong. It did get nerfed, but Bladesworn got nerfed, so actually Catalyst is better now than it was previously, because a lot of the competitors to Catalyst kind of got worse, and therefore, you know, relatively speaking, Catalyst ends up better. But I actually want to talk about some of these traits here. I think there's a bit of a golden opportunity with some of these abilities. And it was maybe missed, and I feel this a lot about a lot of the replacement skills for the 300-second traits. They're a little bit underwhelming. They're a little bit underwhelming here, in this regard. I think that there's an opportunity here. Earth's Embrace could give AoE barrier, I think. And then that is super fun for heal Tempest, by the way, in PvE. You'd have to be a little careful, but it would actually compete with the protection aura, which you probably wouldn't want to give up in PvP. So it will be definitely a bit of a tough decision there to make, but that's good, right? That's kind of good design. Gale Song giving protection is a little bit meh. In a way, you could actually kind of make up for losing the prop from Earth by taking this. I think it would be really cool, though, if this almost like cast a little mini Eye of the Storm when you use your heal skill. So you use Wash the Pain Away and you do like a little mini AoE super speed thing. Could be pretty interesting there, actually. That might be a bit busted, I'm not gonna lie. But I think some of these traits are a little underwhelming in their design, but still, Tempest is great. I would love them to give stability on Eye of the Storm in PvE. It already has the 1 stack, but I find it extremely underwhelming, actually. This is one thing that I think... Aina, again, I mentioned this earlier, they're very stingy on stability. 1 stack of stability in PvE is not that good. 2 stacks is going to be way better, right? And I think they should definitely just bump it up to 2 stacks in PvE. I'm just logging onto my Tempest here to show this. Let's kind of log on there. Here we go. And we can see here that our Eye of the Storm is giving 1 stack of stability to our nearby allies. Make that 2. Love it. Now we're looking good. I also think, oh, check this out, check this out. This is terrifying. Okay, here we go. Are you guys ready? Man, this will be so strong. This might be overpowered. I think Gale Song could give an ammo charge to all shouts. Oh, Jesus. That might be too good. That actually might be too strong. Right? If that's the case. It might have to increase the cooldown of the shouts as a compensation. So it might have to have a downside, actually. Right? Because that is a fun idea, but that is terrifying. Because, again, we talked about how strong ammo is early on. Right? But yeah, right? Yeah. Gale Song only on all builds? Well, no, not necessarily. Like, you know, you don't get your aura on attunement anymore, which would actually be, you know, a pretty big deal, actually. But that would be really strong. I think you'd have to move it. You'd have to make it a Grandmaster trait. So you'd probably have to swap Lucid Singularity and Gale Song. So in other words, you'd have to choose between ammo on your shouts and being able to heal or do loads of damage. It would have to be like some kind of really hybrid-y, weird boon application-y build, right? That would have to give up quite a lot, because that would be ridiculously strong, actually. But would be really fun. But yeah, there you go. There's the wild idea. There's the wild idea there. But yeah, Ellie in general, funnily enough, not that much actually happening with Elementalist. There it is. And I think the final big thing that actually happened... Oh, actually, patch review. Good news for everyone. General changes. Hello, general changes here. You can now auto-salvage stuff when you craft it, and it will break it down into research notes. Really convenient, actually. I think we can kind of demonstrate that feature over here. Oh, wait, I don't have any crafting. Oh, no. Let me just show some crafting here. But actually, there is one more thing that we actually got to talk about, and that's actually Revenant. And in specific, this is going to be a Renegade. So you might go, wait, hang on a minute, Teapot. Where are the Renegade buffs? Oh. There doesn't look like any Renegade buffs here in PvE. What happened? Ah, well, this is because Renegade got one of its old mechanics back. Since the very start of Revenant being in the game, swapping a legend would swap your sigils. It would activate your sigil swap. All right? But this got removed. But now it's back. And this is actually just a straight-up buff to Rev, because, of course, Rev has the special ability that it can activate weapon swap way more than others, because you essentially have 2 weapon swaps, right? So you can activate it more. And this has actually been a really nice buff to Rev, actually. Specifically, Renegade, the Conditioned Renegade build, which is now excellent. This is not the Conditioned Renegade build. This is like a solo open world build, but look, more on that later. But anyway, it's a really nice build if you're using your Geomancy sigil, your Doom sigil, and so on. Another big DPS increase. And bear in mind, Renegade is actually a really damn nice setup to have. You have great utility on the setup, you have a lot of range damage, and lots of damage too now, as it turns out. I believe it's actually up to around 36 or 37,000 DPS on Renegade now, so you are absolutely pumping on this build, and expect to see a little bit of a recovery, I think, of Conditioned Renegade. I really want to see a few changes to Righteous Rebel. Specifically, I want, right now you need like 80% boon duration to give perma a lack on this build. That combined with Ritualist gear being a bit of a pain in the ass to get, I think that this needs to change. What I would actually suggest here is making these traits a little bit better, so it's like more of a DPS loss to take Righteous Rebel, and then making Righteous Rebel increase the duration even further, reducing the amount of boon duration you need, making the usability of this build just a little bit better. But yeah, Combi Renegade after that, definitely a very, very fun and potentially very, very cool build. It can maybe use a bit more boon access. Dude, you know, I'm just like, oh, yo, CMC, power creep the game, bro. Yeah, bro, power creep the game. Well, it's kind of, you kind of... If you want to compete with Mac, seriously, every build is so crazy. Oh my God, right? Like, every build just applies 50 million boons, does a zillion DPS, and is unkillable. Ah! Oh, goodness me. Welcome to Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons. We are in the end times now. But yeah. That's probably a change that will happen at some point, maybe in November. Very exciting. But yeah, Renegade, keep an eye on this. I know that a lot of Renegade mains have lost hope and despaired, but make no mistake, this build is on its way back. Alack Ren, will reactivate shortly. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for that. It's kind of like the last kind of big change, I would say, that we can really talk about there. That we could really talk about. But yeah, that I think is my patch review, I believe, for the October 4th balance patch. I guess the only thing is that general change. Let's go and look at the crafting, guys. Yeah. Let's take a look. Take a look, my friends. Here we go. Because this is a very nifty feature, actually. It was bugged when they released it. It was a very buggy patch, actually. And I guess while we're here, I think I will talk about that from a general perspective. This patch was infested with bugs. And we can see that here, right? At the bottom, right? Fix an issue where auto-salvaging was giving the incorrect amount of research notes. Fix an erroneous prop. The Black Citadel had like a giant orb. Fixed Thief, because Thief just broke. Fix Continuous when you couldn't manually stop Continuum Shift. Fix Tactical Reload, when it wouldn't actually reload ammo skills that are not currently on the bar. Fix the Mechanist nerf that was actually a buff. Okay, now, this is going to be boring, and I'm going to have to do it, guys. I'm putting on, right, come on, let's go. I'm putting on my consumer hat. It's actually a chef's hat, but you guys can pretend that it's my consumer hat, okay? This actually is a little bit not okay. This patch being as broken as it was, and they fixed it fast. I respect that. I do. I do. Okay? But they need to be a little bit more careful. Right? I do not think it's okay for, you know, a top-level game like Guild Wars 2 to be releasing patches that just break the game, right? In a lot of ways. Nerfs that aren't actually nerfs. Tactical Reload being a nerf, but also totally broken, right? A giant orb appearing in the Black Citadel. That one's actually kind of funny. I'll allow that one. That one's fine. There's a salvage one is actually really, really mean. Because basically what was happening is that you would craft these items, right? And you would actually get less notes out. So I bet a bunch of people probably like made a bunch of notes, but got like way less than they should. That can't happen. Am I crazy? Am I insane? I'm sorry. ArenaNet need to look at how they're doing this and be a little bit more careful, in my opinion, with letting bugged content into the game, because it's not fun, it's annoying as hell, and to be honest, it looks a little bit shit, to be honest. It looks a bit scuffed, if I'm being perfectly brutally honest with you. It's not great. But this is how the salvage thing works. I'll actually go ahead and craft some of the stuff. So basically, instead of getting the item, it will just immediately break it down with a research kit. And we'll see that we do this. We're going to get research notes instead. You can see them kind of piling up over here, just like that. That's a really nice quality of life, particularly if you actually put in the effort. I like this because it kind of rewards players who put in effort. Because it means that if you actually do the, I guess, intended way of getting the stuff by crafting items and then salvaging them, it makes them way more convenient, actually. So there you go. Very, very cool kind of general change. I really like that they're actually addressing this, by the way. The research notes are one of the things that I complained about a lot with Ender Dragons. Specifically that they were very anti-fun, very unfun currency. And I actually really respect that ArenaNet, they're taking some great steps here towards making this currency more fun, more interactive, and less frustrating for the players to deal with. So yeah, I've got nothing but good things to say about that one. Oh, yeah. You love to see it. You absolutely do. But there it is, my friends. That's it. That is kind of my balance review, right, of the October 4th patch. Okay. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, everyone. Everyone is maybe seeing this on YouTube. You know, you should hit the sub button. You should hit the like button. Okay? Because now that Mech is dead, you need a new God Emperor. And the God Emperor is the YouTube algorithm. There it is. Very nice. Well, that's it. I'll see you guys next time, okay? I'm out.